and an audience member, former President Trump, appears to have been grazed in some way by a firearm discharge.
And we don't know how many other injuries there may be.
No, but our reporters, Jake Rosen and Olivia Rinaldi, Jake Rosen has provided interviews already about people leaving the rally with apparent signs of either being injured or being near people with apparent injuries, blood on their shirts, blood on their clothing. These are people who were Trump supporters attending the rally in Butler, Pennsylvania. Former President Trump is reportedly in a safe space, according to his campaign. The President Biden, briefed on this, as has the Vice President.
And I should say, I believe we showed that rooftop because of the reporting we had that this was from a distance and an elevated shot.
That it may have been, yeah.
But we should say, in the environment we are in, it is not difficult to get a weapon that you can get through a metal detector. Not all weapons, as we talk about those 3D printed guns and other kind of weapons, necessarily will be detected. And so we should give that caveat. But that rooftop we keep showing, I'd love to get more detail or context to that.
And no security is 100% tight. We go to these events, supporters go to support their candidates, politicians who put themselves in front of crowds. This day and age, we all know the risks. But as you said, Bob, former President Trump loved these types of events. He loves these types of events. He likes to be as close to the people as he can.
His hand in the air as he leaves stage, he's on his feet. This really has, you can see him there ducking down. Something hit his head in some way. He ducks down. It really reminds any person who has looked at history in the past 40 years of 1981 when President Ronald Reagan was shot at the Hilton Hotel just outside by John Hinckley, trying to assassinate President Reagan. Reagan ducked down into his motorcade, went ultimately to George Washington University Hospital, just a few blocks from CBS News here in Washington. And there was so much confusion in the wake of that shooting. Reagan wasn't fully aware of how he had been shot, if he had been shot. In some way was saying maybe he can just go back to the White House. Ultimately, they decided to bring Reagan to George Washington University Hospital. These decisions happen sometimes in a nanosecond that can have enormous consequences for global politics, American democracy, a presidency. We do know the President Biden, has been briefed. Former President Trump, his campaign says he is safe. And KDKA has been told by the Butler County District Attorney that the alleged assailant, attempted assailant, the shooter, is now dead. The shooter is dead along with a participant in the rally. And that coincides with what I heard from one of the attendees on the record. Congressman Mike Kelly of Pennsylvania told me just a few minutes ago on the phone it was mayhem. People were ducking down onto the ground. There was concern that many people were being hurt. And
our Scott MacFarlane is outside the rally, outside where this all took place. Let's bring him back in. Scott?
Did somebody check it?
Go ahead, Scott. Can you hear me?
I hear you just fine. It's Scott MacFarlane in Butler County.
Scott, go ahead. You're on the air. What is the latest that you're hearing, and what can you see from where you are?
Okay. Sorry for the imposition. We're having some bad cell phone signals here, and it's part of the response that we're also kind of pinned into a parking lot right now. Over the past hour, we've seen law enforcement and Secret Service just move people back further away from this scene. It is quite clearly an active investigative scene. I also noticed 2 helicopter landings, a minimum of 2, about 2 to 5 minutes after the former president was ushered off site or ushered off the stage. We know there are people in paramilitary gear, sidearms, moving through this area. Secret Service is here, so is local police. But a good chunk of this crowd, estimate hundreds of people, still remain near the site, sharing stories, some of them sharing embraces and tears, and trying to watch what happens next, even from a distance. And everybody we're talking to